Welcome to Sports Talk with R and J. I'm your host Steve Risser, along with Justin D'Onofrio, and we get a lot of stuff to talk about this week too. I mean, we got college football that's in full swing, NFL Week 8 that's in full swing, but we got to start with what happened last night in the World Series. And for the first time in over 30 years, the Dodgers win the World Series. They beat the Rays last night, 3-1 in a really good game. This was ultimately a really good series. The Dodgers won in 6, which I predicted they win in 6. So did Justin. But unfortunately, even though the Dodgers won the World Series, we got unfortunately a couple unfortunate negative stories though coming from last night. And first was from the Rays manager Kevin Cash. I mean, up 1-0 pitches. He looked like he was cruising. He was going to go 7 or 8 innings, and then he gives up a base hit to Austin Barnes. And then right after that happens, Snell Kevin Cash pulls him from the game. I was stunned when he did that after 73 pitches, 9 strikeouts, only gave up 2 hits, and he pulls him from the game, takes him out of the game, brings in Nick Anderson. Anderson gives up a double to Mookie Betts. Then there's a pass ball, game's tied, and then Seager reaches on a fielder's choice. The Rays lead is gone. Betts hits the home run in the 8th inning, and the Dodgers close out the Rays in the 9th to win the World Series. So really, Kevin Cash did a good job this year, but a very, very, very poor managing decision by Kevin Cash, and one he's going to have to live with for a very long time.
Yeah, this age of baseball, twice, we got through the lineup twice. In the top of the order, they were 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts, and all 6 of those at bats, they looked foolish up there. It's not like they had 10 pitch at bats where they saw a lot of pitches. Yeah, he fooled them. It just an elimination game too. You have no tomorrow. Just let them keep riding it. Because you let Glasnow hang out to dry in game 1. It just makes no sense. I don't understand it. And I know it's all analytics, but we want to do all analytics like that. Why don't we just store a computer in the dugout? Doesn't that save you like $1 million a year? Just have the computer, toss something out to the bench coach.
I don't understand it. I know
it's gotten to a point where it's just ruins the game kind of because you still need that gut decision. You still need that. None of the analytics don't take in the human emotions, and it cost the Rays big time because it just gave the Dodgers a boost too. It gave the Dodgers a boost. They gave them a sigh of relief. Okay, thank God. Blake Snell's out of the game. Now they brought in Nick Anderson, who has now his 6th straight postseason appearance. He gave up at least a 1 run. So you brought in a guy too, Nick Anderson, that was kind of struggling. It's a questionable move that he's going to have to think about.
I don't understand it.
Oh, absolutely. It was a terrible move, and you brought up the point about analytics, Justin. Just way too much trusting analytics. The top 3 guys, Turner, Seager, and Betts, all struck out 6 times against him. If you're not touching a guy, there's no way you should have been out of that game. It's absolutely ridiculous that he was out of that game. It was awful. I mean, the guy was pitching a gem, and they took him out. I mean, that's the problem with analytics. You trust analytics too much. You don't get that human element of the game. And that's been the thing that's taken over baseball. It started with Billy Beane with the Oakland A's. Analytics has continued to take over baseball for years and years. We saw it with our Yankees in game 2 when Boone took out Deivi Garcia. It's been happening for years and years. And last night, I think it finally analytics really hurt the Rays. I mean, trusting analytics really hurt them. They should have trusted the human element. If they did, they're probably playing game 7 tonight.
Yeah, I think they would have. Because, it's just, because they're, the Rays we know were so inconsistent too with the lineup. They probably had to win that game 1-0, 2-1, something like that. They didn't get another run. They had to stick with the guy. It just, it's really has hurt the sport. And I get why they do it. And I understand all of that. But it's at times there's a point where it's like, okay, let's just get rid of the analytics here for a second. I'm going to go with my gut decision. And there's not much of that anymore. And that's the biggest problem is we lean on the computers way too much, more than we should. And it costs them. It's cost the Yankees the last few years. Again, the Braves aren't a very heavily analytics team. They made the NLCS this year. So it just – there's got to be a point where, all right, gut decision. I'm not going to go based on the analytics here. Because none of the analytic guys are going to speak today. Go out there and say,
of course, they're hiding the analytics guys. They're hiding today.
Yeah, they're hiding today. Yeah, because their data was wrong today or yesterday, and it costs everybody in that Rays organization maybe a World Series. Because they be playing tonight with Charlie Morton, who has been great in Game 7s, and did not pitch well last Friday. I get it, but probably would have pitched a much better game tonight. So the Rays, and I know they would have gone against Walker Buehler, but I feel like the Rays would have had a nice shot, and all the pressure would have been on the Dodgers tonight.
Yeah, the main point. Yeah, exactly. With them losing 2 of the last 3 World Series too, having that pressure. Yes, they did lose a Game 7, and the Astros might have cheated, but they did lose a Game 7 in 2017 too. So there definitely would have been pressure on the Dodgers. But yeah, Kevin Cash robbed us of a Game 7. Just a terrible move, and we were robbed of a Game 7 because of that move, because he made that move. But we got to talk about another big story, another bad decision made by the winning team on Tuesday last night. And here's the thing: we hope that Justin Turner is okay. I hope he's okay. I hope he's fine. But it just seemed like just when we thought baseball did it right, they got through this completely. They got through it completely COVID-free. There were no COVID tests. When we thought baseball was going to do it right, we find out after the game last night, Kevin Burkhardt tells us that Justin Turner tested positive for COVID-19. And at that point, I was saying, I feel bad for him. He's not going to be able to celebrate with his team, but I hope he's doing okay. But then the part that stuns me is this guy's out there celebrating with his team with COVID-19. To me, that makes no sense at all. And I'm sorry, whoever let him on that field, working for Major League Baseball, should be fired. That is absolutely ridiculous that you let a guy who tested positive for COVID-19 out on the field. And you see the picture, too, with Justin Turner standing right there. He's right next to Dave Roberts. He's not standing 6 feet apart when he's having COVID-19. This is a global pandemic, and you have this guy on the field. It makes no sense at all. And it's sad that after a really good World Series, this is what we have to talk about.
It is, and this has been baseball this year. He's sitting there holding the trophy, and and he's not even wearing the mask, and he's sitting next to Dave Roberts, his manager, who's a cancer survivor. And of course, hopefully, Justin Turner's okay. He's not, having any symptoms and all that. But it's such a it's been baseball this year though. Then they got there's little kids out there too.
Yeah, you see Joe's comment. Little kids who get exposed to this virus. It's awful. It's just awful that this happened right at the end of the game. I can't believe it. I just can't believe he was on the field.
I can't either. Now they said security team was trying to keep him in the dugout, but they couldn't stop him.
Well, the security team should be doing their job and making sure this guy doesn't get anywhere near the field.
Yeah, I just don't get it. Not out there with the mask, just holding the trophy, near kids. It's just such a terrible thing for baseball on a day where you should be celebrating the LA Dodgers. We have to talk about this, and for Clayton Kershaw's legacy to finally get that World Series ring. But the first thing that we have to talk about is Justin Turner getting COVID and the way he kind of and being on the field during the celebration and, not social distancing and all that. It's just been, it's the same story for baseball all year. They almost did it without it since, the Cardinals got it back in early August, and biggest day of the year for baseball. And this happens. It's just such another terrible look for the sport.
Oh, absolutely. And yes, and I get, you've been on those Dodger teams that lost 2 World Series. You've been working really, really hard to get this, but when you have COVID-19, that stuff goes out the window. You cannot be anywhere near your employees and expose this and spread this virus to your employees. You just cannot do that. I'm sorry that, you don't want to miss out on the moment of winning the World Series, but too bad. You have to stay safe. You have to stay isolated if you have COVID-19. And that's just reality. That's the reality of the situation. I mean, someone's life is a hell of a lot more important than celebrating with your teammates after you win the World Series. If you're on the team, you're still going to get the ring. You're still going to be remembered for being on the team. You don't need to be in the picture celebrating the World Series. Who cares if you're in the picture? You have COVID-19. You got to isolate yourself. And again, it's just sad. This is what we have to talk about on a day where baseball really did a really good job getting to the finish line. We probably didn't think at the beginning in July. I didn't think at the first week of August. I didn't think baseball was going to get to the finish line, and they did. But sadly, we have to talk about this.
Yeah, exactly right.
Now I see. Oh my! Is that serious? He's kissing somebody. I don't know if that's his wife or his girlfriend, but he's kissing somebody while he has COVID. Is that serious?
Yeah, and then I think in the dugout even there was like a couple of the wives or girlfriends that he's up there hugging and kissing on the it's just it's irresponsible. It's just
you see Joe's comments crazy.
Yeah, it is. And with a virus that has killed so many people in the entire world, and you gotta put kind of everything else aside and just make sure that you keep everybody else safe and healthy, and not affect your whole team and the families and all that. You gotta put up. And I know the emotions run high. You do win the World Series. I know your emotions are high and you want to be out there, but you gotta be able to hold yourself back from all that. Go isolate and go, keep everybody else safe around you. And it's just, it's just such a bad look. I think that's the first picture we've seen him in a mask.
Nice one. Nice Joe would put up. Who's this masked man? Yeah.
Yeah, he should be wearing that in all of them. He shouldn't be out there, obviously, but it's just terrible. It's terrible.
And to conclude on this, we hope Justin Turner's doing well. We hope he's doing fine. But the mistake he made last night was going out on the field and celebrating with his teammates. That was the big mistake he made last night. You gotta have a sense of reality, knowing how serious this virus is, and you can't be, when you have COVID-19, be celebrating with other people. You just can't be doing that. But before we wrap this up, let's talk about where the Rays and Dodgers are going from here. We'll start with the team that lost last night, the Rays. And I still think the Rays have a really, really good future. I think, especially with the pitching, especially with Glasnow and Snell. I mean, those 1-2, that's a really good 1-2 combination. Got probably the best bullpen in baseball. And offensively, I think Meadows is going to have a better regular season. Rosarina is good. This team is going to be battling with the Yankees in the AL East for the next probably 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, definitely. They still have a solid team. Most of the guys are coming back. They definitely, the Rays are going to be right there with the Yankees, and I assume now, the Red Sox are going to get back up there soon too. So, it's going to be a challenge in the AL East years to come, but definitely. And now for this Rays team too, they finally beat the Yankees. So this team ain't scared of the Yankees anymore. They know they can beat them. So it's going to be a fun rivalry with the Yankees and Rays series, but they definitely have a shot next year to get back to where they are. But American League's going to be tough next year. But they got pretty much everybody coming back.
Yeah, I mean, you saw this rivalry this year. You saw Chapman throwing at Brousseau's hat. So you saw that great 5-game series they had. So this Yankee-Ray rivalry, I think it's right now. It's at its peak. It's at its peak. It's better than it's ever been. These two teams are at its peak. And Joe just put up a graphic there. The Rays favorite to win the AL East in 2021. We'll see about that. We'll see what the Yankees do in free agency. I still think the Yankees got to upgrade their rotation. Maybe see what they're going to do at closer. Do they just move Britton to the closer? Or they keep Chapman at closer. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, the Rays are favored. It's very close between the two teams in the American League East going into 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be fun to watch these two teams see. Doing the winner. Like I would assume. I think the Rays have a club option with more, and I would assume they're gonna. I assume they're going to take that option and have him come back as well next year. But yeah, it's going to be a fun, 18 games. If we have a 162 game schedule, it should be fun to watch this team go at it in the AL East, because all those games will be important to stay out of the wild card game. And
looking at the Dodgers, it looks like there's a very good chance they'll be back here next year. This team's not going anywhere with Mookie Betts, with Cody Bellinger, with Corey Seager, with Max Muncy, with Justin Turner. This team is going nowhere. I mean, Kershaw's getting a little old, but still they still got Walker Buehler. They'll have David Price back next year too as a number 3 starter. Their bullpen is not great, but it's still really good. I think the Dodgers, you could very easily see the Dodgers back in this spot in the World Series next year.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's I know Justin Turner's a free agent, so we'll see if they re-sign him or not. I think that's like the only big one. I think it's like him and Jimmy Nelson are like the two free agents they have on this roster right now. So yeah, they pretty much have their whole core, this whole team coming back. They already locked up Mookie. So yeah, there's gonna be another dangerous team again, and definitely again, for what, like the fourth, fifth year in a row, they'll be, they're the favorites again in the National League to get back to the World Series.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the thing, yeah. I mean, I just can't see. I mean, the Braves are close, but I just don't see anybody. And as we see right here, World Series odds, Dodgers open up as the favorites to repeat. So, yeah, I think we very, very easily could see the Dodgers back here in this spot next year. And a closing thought on the baseball season. Yes, this was a baseball season unlike any other 60-game season. We had COVID issues pretty much throughout the first month of the season. That kind of calmed down. Baseball, very, very smart idea going to a bubble. I give Manfred credit for that. But unfortunately, for as good of a job Manfred did the last couple months, it had to end in a guy testing positive for COVID. So I still think, Manfred, I crushed him for a while. I think he did a good idea putting the bubble together. Yeah, there was one positive test, but overall, as much as I don't love Rob Manfred as a commissioner, I still think with the circumstances this year, he did a good job getting to the finish line. I got to give him credit for that.
Yeah, you definitely do. I know end of July, it was like the second weekend of the, MLB season. And, there was, he kind of warned everybody saying this thing's about to get shut down very soon. This thing may not last till Monday. And yeah, they were able to kind of get it together, after all the rough patches that they had from, trying to get the season restart. They get to the bubble, which, yes, was a great idea. They almost made it through without zero positive tests. Unfortunately, the final night of the year. So, yeah, they kind of got their act together. Rob Manfred, and his group kind of got it together. In such a weird, wacky year with 60 games and able to finish it, kind of all that mattered. But unfortunately, the final night of the year, something like this had to happen.
Absolutely unfortunate, but still really, really good job by Rob Manfred getting to the finish line. Because I remember, I said this earlier in the show. I remember, first week of August, I thought there was no way baseball was going to finish their season, but they ended up doing it. So Rob Manfred overall did a good job this year.
Yeah, he did. After all the, tough start that they had, definitely kind of finished strong. It'll be interesting to see what happens, with baseball this winter. But yeah, ended up doing, a good job getting this thing to the finish line, which nobody really thought was going to happen.
Absolutely not. So good job by Manfred. So we're going to take a quick break, and after that, we're going to preview Week 8 of the NFL. But before that, check out a promo from Baseball with the Bard.
Looking for a casual baseball podcast to listen to? Well, Baseball with the Bard, presented by Clovercrest Media, has just what you're looking for. Tyler Bard and Noah Cross cover a wide range of happenings in the MLB, and then dive into a deep focus on the Red Sox and Yankees. Join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for your weekly dose of Baseball with the Bard.
Clovercrest Media Group presents a CMG podcast, Keys to the City.
Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know.
Crossed up by Kobe, little floater to Shaq, and then Shaq goes like this, and the rest is history. Pay attention. Don't tell me what to do, devil woman. But speaking of those Lakers, hold on. But I didn't make my. I said Denver's gonna win. Yeah, you did. You said that.
There's no other show like that. Clovercrest is doing great things right now.
Streaming everywhere.
Thank you, Tyler and Trevor. Check out Baseball with the Bard every Sunday. Tyler and Noah, they talk everything baseball, especially Yankee, break down the Yankees and Red Sox. So check that out. And don't forget to check out Keys to the City every Tuesday and Friday. The Keys Bros do a great job, so check that out as well. We got to get to Week 8 of the NFL season, and we're going to start with a big move. The Buccaneers on Friday, and they signed Antonio Brown. So Tom Brady, he recruited him to come to the Buccaneers. Your guy Tom Brady keeps recruiting guys for Fournette, Brown. This offense is getting more loaded, getting better and better as the days go on. But yeah, Tom Brady, they signed Antonio Brown to a 1-year deal. And, the thing is here, I think that he has to, he's got to be on his best behavior, because they've made it clear if any nonsense, he's going to be gone immediately. This is a low risk, high reward deal for the Buccaneers. If you look now looking at this offense, I mean, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Rob Gronkowski. This offense is going to look really, really, really good right now. I mean, right now the Buccaneers. I'm still picking the Seahawks picking the Seahawks to go to the Super Bowl because I picked it from day one, and I'm not going off it with a quarterback like Russell Wilson. I'm not giving up on him, so I'm still sticking with Seattle to be the best team in the NFC. But to me, Tampa Bay is a very close second. But I can't leave Seattle. I can't not take Seattle. But Tampa Bay is a close second. Looking at this team, I mean, you look at the defense; it's one of the top defenses in the league with Devin White, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh. In the secondary, you got Antoine Winfield Jr. So, yeah, I mean, the Buccaneers look like – so a lot of people think they're maybe even the best team in the NFL. A lot of people think they're the best team in the NFC. So we'll see what happens there with the Bucs. But this week, the Bucs should have an easy game because they play my Giants at MetLife Stadium on Monday night. And, yes, the Giants have been competitive, but the problem with the Giants all year long has been they just have not been able to close out games, and that was clearly evident last week in Philadelphia when they had that 11-point lead with 6 minutes to go. And they gave that game away. They're just another brutal loss for the Giants. But the thing is this week is that the Giants are playing a much more talented team than the Buccaneers. Yes, the Buccaneers are going to be without Chris Godwin. He's one of their better, obviously he's one of their better receivers. So in this game, I think the Giants may stay in it early. I think they'd be able to. They might take an early lead, may take like an early 3-0 or 7-0 lead. They might stay in it early, kind of similar to the Pittsburgh game. I think they might have the lead, maybe in the first quarter, maybe a little bit in the second quarter, but. In the second half, I think Tampa Bay is going to take over. I think they're going to run the ball for enough yards with Fournette and Jones. I think Brady will throw a couple touchdown passes. And I think on offense, the Giants are going to have a very, very difficult time running the football against this Tampa Bay front. This is the best run defense in football. So they're going to have a difficult time doing that. And I think the Bucs are going to be, getting pressure on Daniel Jones all game long. I do think that Jones might make some plays with Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard, who's probably going to play. So they might make some plays in that Tampa Bay secondary. As we saw last year when the Bucs played the Giants, Daniel Jones did make some plays in that Tampa secondary. But that Tampa front seven is too much for the Giants. And I got the Bucs winning on Monday night, 27-13 over the Giants.
Yeah, I got Tampa 34-20 on the road. For the Giants, it's just building that kind of winning culture. They got to be able to find that, they get rid of the losing, Evan Ingram catches that ball. They win the game. It's kind of plays like that have to go your way. Got to be able to make to win the game. And they played well on the road. Again, the turnover still hurt them, but with three of them. Thing on Tampa, adding AB is just another weapon for Brady. He's loving all these new toys. It's definitely, low risk, kind of high reward because they have so many leaves in that locker room. They won't let AB kind of be a diva, and if he is, that will end very, very quickly. But yeah, I think the Giants will be able to score some points early on, but I think Tampa will still settle in like they kind of did last week against the Raiders, kind of pull away a bit, and I just see the Giants having a tough time stopping the Bucs offense, and then the Bucs pass rush I think could have a big day against the Giants, and Daniel Jones could be hit a lot.
Oh, I think they're going to get a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones. Andrew Thomas has been absolutely terrible this year. I don't want to be tough on a rookie, but he's been over his head at left tackle. The offensive line has been one of the worst in the league. It's just going to be so hard for the Giants to run the ball. They're just going to – the thing about the Giants is they're going to have to make plays in that secondary. I mean, on the Buccaneers secondary, but it's just going to be hard to see them doing that, especially with Evan Ingram, the way he's been playing recently. He just can't catch the ball. I mean, they're going to need a big game out of Slayton, and they're going to need a big game out of Shepard for them to even compete in this game against Tampa Bay. And then also another way they would be able to compete is if they can get pressure on Brady. I think interior pressure is the key. Leonard Williams has to have the game of his life. He's got to be really good in the run game, and he's got to get pressure on Brady. That's the only way the Giants compete in this game.
Yeah, because your defense has been good all year. It's just
it's been good, but and listen, part of this is because the offense can't stay on the field. Mm-hmm. But it's been good. But when it's mattered the most, this defense hasn't made the big stop. Two bad quarterbacks have driven down the field to score touchdowns. Andy Dalton drove down the field to get the Dallas got a field goal, game-winning field goal. Then Kyle Allen drove down the field for the Redskins to get, which should have been the game-tying touchdown, but they ended up going for 2. And then last week, Carson Wentz gives up 2 drives when the Giants are up by 11 points late in the game. So the defense has been good, but it hasn't been good when it's needed to be good.
Yeah, it's just gotta be able to finish games. But yeah, and it's definitely kind of been, you don't want to put all the blame on the off, but yeah, they've been defense the last few weeks too. They're pretty much all year have been on the field a lot, and they just wear down. I just, with a lot of young pieces, I just, wear down towards the end of the game. You definitely gotta be able to make the stop to kind of make that next step. But yeah, it hasn't happened yet. I think it'll definitely come, hopefully, for them next few weeks. I know, after the Bucs, you have to Washington and the Eagles, so 2 games you could possibly win there going head into a bye. But yeah, this is the defense could be in for a rough one if the offense can't stay on the field, especially just how good this offense is.
Yeah, I mean, you keep the Giants' defense is good, but as Joe has said all year, if you keep this defense on the field, they're going to get exposed, and this offense will absolutely expose them. Mm-hmm. But we got to go from Tom Brady's new team to his old team, and that's the New England Patriots, and they are struggling, and their offense has been absolutely terrible the last 3 weeks. Cam Newton has been terrible. Their skill position guys have been absolutely terrible as well. They have trouble running the football. They just can't do anything right offensively. And even last week defensively against the Niners, they didn't do well either. They could not stop the run at all against the 49ers. So, I mean, this is a huge game this week for the Patriots. This is a game that if they don't win this game, they're not making the playoffs. They need this is a must win for the Patriots in Buffalo this week. And Buffalo, yes, they're a good team, but I wouldn't put them in the top 4. I think that Kansas City, Baltimore, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh are definitely better teams than the Bills right now. I mean, I think the Bills last week had a sluggish effort against the Jets. They ended up winning the game by 1 score. Yes, they kicked 6 field goals, but they ended up winning the game by 1 score. So the Bills didn't play that well last week against the Jets, and they still came away with the win because of the team they played. But for this game, I think this is a close, competitive AFC East battle. I think that both teams have success on the ground. I do think the Patriots have success on the ground. I think the Bills have success on the ground. I think that there's a lot of field goals kicked in this game. There's not a lot of touchdowns. I think it's a game where the teams move the ball, but there'll be a lot of field goals. But I'm going to take the team with the better quarterback and the quarterback that'll make less mistakes. I do think Cam's going to make some mistakes in this game. He's going to turn the ball over a couple of times. I think Josh Allen makes less mistakes than Cam Newton. And in a close, competitive AFC East game, I'm going to take the Bills to beat the Patriots 23-16.
Yeah, I got the Bills 27-17. So this is kind of what I'm thinking of Cam right now. He's had the shoulder surgery, and I know, and because he was missing guys, balls are short, balls are 5-6 yards away from his wide receivers. Sometimes he just holds on to the ball too long. I just don't know if it's kind of that shoulder, is bothering him again, that he's had a surgery on that right shoulder. I don't know if that's it. He said it's not injury-wise. Bill said it's not injury-wise. That's kind of what I'm seeing, because the first few weeks he looked great, and it's kind of since he's come back from COVID, he's not been the same. Again, the weapons really don't help you at all. Again, you can't keep leaning on a 34-year-old Julian Edelman that, every week he plays, but it seems like
he's not played that well this year either, though. Let's be honest. He's not played that well either.
No, not since that Seattle game. I think because he was banged up Seattle game. I think there's something actually really wrong injury-wise with him this year. And in knowing him, he's going to try to play through it all year. But and again, I think teams know too. That's the only guy that can beat you for this weapons-wise. He's the only guy that can really beat you. Again, Harry's hurt. He didn't practice today. I assume he's going to be out. He really has been a bust. I think I'm like the one Patriot fan that's still trying to be optimistic about him. But
you probably are the one Patriot fan that's trying to be optimistic about Harry. He has gotten a couple concussions though.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. But yeah, you are the one Patriot fan that's optimistic about Harry. And your organization, you guys passed on DK Metcalf, AJ Brown to get this guy too.
Yeah, so I'm losing that optimism every week, but I'm still trying to stay hopeful that he can turn into the guy that we drafted.
You must have liked him at Arizona State.
I thought he was I thought he was pretty solid. It was his first year too under Herm Edwards, so I think Herm probably had a lot of again kind of told Belichick to get this guy. I thought he was a solid player at Arizona State. So I wanted Metcalf and AJ Brown over him. He was kind of the third option there, but unfortunately we got him the first. And yeah, so far DK Metcalf and AJ Brown have looked totally better. Everybody, all the wide receivers drafted after him looked a lot better. But look, and then kind of the last point for me with the Pats is this defense was supposed to be the strength, especially in the secondary, and it had not been great this year. Now, with Gilmore's contract expiring at the end of the year, and knowing the Patriots' way, they're not going to re-sign him because of the money.
Oh, I could see if they lose this game, Gilmore's gone. I think they lose this game, Gilmore's gone. They trade him at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I would not shock me either. I don't think you're going to get a first rounder from him, but again, you could maybe try to get a second, maybe a late first rounder if it's somebody that's desperate to want a corner in the secondary, maybe. But especially if we lose this game, I'm kind of more, all right, let's just kind of build for the future here. Let's kind of, let's rebuild here in the draft. And speaking of that, especially if we lose this game too, we're 2-5. I know we're 2-5. We're still early, but I love Kyle Pitts out of Florida. The way we're playing, it may not be out of the question that we can maybe draft him. I love that Kyle Pitts on this team, but last few weeks have been very disappointing. I just never seen a lackluster effort from the Patriots like that. I never thought I would see a lackluster effort when Bill Belichick was as a coach like they did last week. That was absolutely embarrassing to watch. I know there's no fans at the stadium, but I'm still trying to get used to this getting blown out thing. I'm not used to it yet, and it just I was just shocked watching that game. I was shocked to watch how I'm just shocked how bad they played.
Yeah, and that's what happens when Tom Brady leaves. Tom Brady sets that level of competitiveness every single week. He's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game, one of the greatest NFL players to ever play the game, and he sets that level of intensity every single week. You're seeing what he's doing in Tampa now. He's turning that around. So Belichick. Here's the one thing: you can debate if Belichick's the greatest coach ever. You can never debate that Tom Brady's not the greatest quarterback of all time. He is clearly the greatest quarterback of all time. Because you look at Belichick, I'm not saying Belichick isn't an outstanding coach. He is. But his record is under 500 without Brady. And I know a lot of great coaches, a lot of great coaches have to have great players with them. Obviously, Phil Jackson and Kobe and Jordan. Great coaches do have great players with them. But if you're going to tell me who was more responsible for the Patriots dynasty, there's no debate. It's Tom Brady over Bill Belichick. Because you're seeing this year what's happening right now with what's happening with the Patriots, what's happening with the Bucs. You're completely seeing who was more responsible for the Pats dynasty.
Yeah, you are starting to see that. I never wanted to make that assumption yet, but you're really starting to see it because Brady did, pretty much with the same weapons that they had this year and last year. There's not really much change at all, and Brady won, 11, 12 games last year. So, yeah.
But granted, the defense was better last year, but still, if that Denver game, there's no way Brady loses that game. No way at all.
Yeah, and I think Brady finds a way to beat Denver. Brady finds a way to beat Kansas City. And, again, who knows, they lost by 27 last week. So, yeah, they have Brady, they could be sitting right now maybe 1-5. Because, yeah, they find a way to beat,
you mean 5-1?
Yeah, I meant 5. Yeah, I meant 5. Yeah, 5-1. Because they'd find a way to beat – they'd probably find a way, too, to beat Seattle. They find a way to win 3-4 of those, 3 of the 4 for their losses. So yeah, they definitely do.
I'd probably say 4-2 or 3-3. At least 3-3, maybe 4-2 for me. That would be if they still have Brady. That would be my record because the defense isn't as good as it was last year. It's just been just a complete struggle for this team. It's just and again, Cam Newton's been terrible, and the offensive skill guys are awful on this team, and the offensive line is shaky too. So the offense they're a bottom 5 offense. That's the reality right now.
Yeah, it's gone downhill fast too. After the Seattle game, I don't know, and I remember we talked about that next week. I was not a fan of one of these people that wanted to give him the next 5-6 year extension here and let him be the guy. I was not at that point yet, and we're starting to kind of see that, it's just, Newton's not the guy, Newton's not what he used to be with, unfortunately, all the injuries he's had. worked for a few weeks, but it doesn't really seem like, it's going to change. And look, if they lose 2, this will be my last point. I'd rather just see Jarrett Stidham play there. If you really think Jarrett Stidham's a guy, let him start playing after this game. Just let him go. And we'll find out if Stidham's actually the guy or not.
Absolutely. I think if they lose this game, I think Cam gets benched. I think it's over for Cam if they lose to the Bills this week. But going from Cam's new team to his old team, tomorrow night the Panthers play the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. And I'm going to surprise some people a little bit with this pick. I'm taking the Falcons in this game, and here's the reason why. The Panthers don't stop the run that well, so I think Ty Gurley redeem himself this week and he'll have a pretty good game on the ground. Panthers don't get pressure on the quarterback, so I think that Matt Ryan will have a good day through the air. And I think the Falcons move the ball a lot in this game. I think they put up 30 points in this game. And I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to have trouble playing from behind because they're not, in my opinion, they're not going to have Christian McCaffrey. They're going to sit him out one more week. They're not going to bring him back for the short week. So the Falcons defenses, they do stop the run pretty well. So I think they do that, and then they force Water to beat them. G.J. Moore and Robbie Anderson will make their plays, but they're not going to make enough plays. And I got the Falcons winning this game tomorrow night, and I got them winning it 30-20 over the Panthers.
I'm going with the Panthers, 27-21 over the Falcons. I think for the Falcons, they should have won last week. I think that was the third loss this year that they had at one point in the fourth quarter where they had a 96% chance to win the game and they lost it. Yeah, you think the Giants give away games? The Falcons the Falcons are on a whole other level. I mean, you look at the loss to the Cowboys, the loss to the Bears, and the loss to the Lions at a whole other level. Nobody's on the Falcons level of blowing games in this league or blowing games this year. One is. I mean, you could argue, and I don't like to do this, but you could seriously argue that team should be they're 1-6. They should be 4-3. I mean, I don't like doing that because I'm kind of a you are what you are kind of guy, but they really should be 1-6 because the way they've lost games this year has been absolutely absurd. I mean, I've honestly never seen anything like it. No, I completely agree with you, especially with that offense. I know the defense isn't great, but yeah, they should have won those 3 games. They should be sitting there 4-3. When that offense, this team definitely has obviously they don't have a chance anymore to make the playoffs. They're not running 5-6 games in a row here. But beginning of the season, the team had potential with this offense and how good it could, with all the weapons that they do have. They just cannot close out games for some odd reason. They just haven't really since Dan Quinn's been, the last few years, pretty much since the Super Bowl, they really struggled to close out games. But the first time, I was impressed the way the Falcons ran the ball. I think Gurley had 120 yards. But I really like the Panthers, the way they're playing. They kind of went to the Super Bowl. I know the Saints are not playing very well right now, but I think Carolina Thursday night, I like to take the home teams on Thursday nights with a short week. I know it's a divisional game, but I think, I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to do enough in the passing game. And I think, he can lead him down for a game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, we should be trusting Justin. He leads in picks, so we should be trusting Justin about those Thursday night games, about those picks. But we'll move on to an AFC North matchup in Baltimore. And this is a big game between the 6-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, the only undefeated team in the league, heading to Baltimore to face the 5-1 Baltimore Ravens. And here's a move that no one has been talking about, is the Ravens getting Yannick Ngakoue. The Vikings last week, because of all the Antonio Brown news, the Vikings traded Yannick Ngakoue to the Ravens. And this is a big move. And here's the reason why. This is going to go all the way to when the Ravens going to have to play might have to play the Chiefs again in the playoffs. The reason the Ravens made this move was to try to beat Kansas City, and here's why. They're seeing the way teams are playing Kansas City. They're daring them to run the football. And the next time the Ravens play Kansas City, they're not going to blitz them. Even though the Ravens blitzed the second most of any team in the league outside of the Steelers, the Ravens are not going to blitz them this time. They're going to try to get pressure with 4. And having an Ngakoue paired with Calais Campbell, that the reason, and they also could play some zone coverage too in the secondary. That's the reason they made this move was to beat Kansas City. That's why they got Yannick Ngakoue. Now, moving on to the game against the Steelers, I think in this game, I know a lot of people are picking the Steelers, but I think the Steelers are 6-0. But to me, there's no way the Steelers are the best team in the AFC. Look at the teams they've played, and look at the fact their quarterback is still good, but he's not he's out of his prime, and that showed last week in the second half against the Titans. I think in this game, I think the Ravens, without Devin Bush, I think they have success running the ball. I think this is a game where the Ravens play from in front. I think Lamar Jackson makes plays in this game. I don't think he turns the ball over. And I think on defense, yes, Big Ben will make his plays in this game, but I think he has a couple turnovers. I think they get pressure on him with Ndakwe and with Campbell. And this is a close, competitive AFC North battle, but I'm going to go with the Ravens. And I still think the Ravens are a better team than the Steelers, and they're going to prove it this week. I got the Ravens beating the Steelers 23-17.
I'm going to take the Steelers going on the road 24-21. I think this is the reason why. If the Steelers can come out like they did in the first half in Tennessee and absolutely just blow them off the line like they did and just manhandle them up front, they definitely win this game. The thing is, I also think, too, they're going to rely a lot on the running game, and I think they're not going to rely on Big Ben to kind of win this game. I think they're going to try to keep Lamar Jackson and that offense off the field, and especially I think, they can get out to an early lead and have to make Lamar Jackson throw. They're going to make, and I think the Steelers, too, are going to make sure that Lamar Jackson will not beat him with his legs. I think they're going to force Lamar to make some plays with his arm. And I still don't know if I trust him to do that and beat a good Steeler team. I know they, Devin Bush out for the year, but they still got Watt, and Bud Dupree up front. And I'm gonna take the Steelers to go on the road. I know they've kind of gotten out the big leads and they've really kind of let the opponents back in. But I feel like this is the week where the Steelers play 60 minutes of football.
We got an NFC North matchup in Green Bay as the 1-5 Vikings head to Green Bay to face I think it's the 5-1 Packers. I'm not sure if it's 5-1 or 6-1. I think the 5-1 Packers. So the Vikings, there's 1-5, 5-1. We got it there. So the Vikings face the Packers. Second time they played this year. Packers beat them in Minnesota in the opening game of the season. But for this game, I think the Viking defense is absolutely terrible now that they've traded Ndakwe. I think their corners are awful. I think Aaron Rodgers has a huge day against this defense, just like the first time. And, the Vikings might have some success running the ball for a little bit, but they're going to get way too far behind, or they're going to force Kirk Cousins to throw. And then, Preston Smith and Darius Smith are going to get pressure on Kirk Cousins. This game's going to be a blowout. I got the Packers winning this game 34-17 over the Vikings.
Yeah, I got the Packers 38-27. I think, I think it's like last time, but the Packers have a huge lead in the fourth quarter. It's like, the Vikings score like a late touchdown here to make it respectable. And I think that's kind of what's going to happen this time. They should have Dalvin Cook back, which could help, but again, there's just no way they're going to slow down Aaron Rodgers. I know Rodgers, for the most part, hasn't played the greatest competition really. I guess, they've beaten the Saints. I know the Bucs game, he really struggled. But I really like the way Rodgers played in the rest of the game. I feel like he just has another strong performance. And last time, too, the Packers had the ball for 40 minutes of that game. And I feel like they're going to use the same formula again, especially to make sure that the Vikings will not have success running the football.
We got the most lopsided game of the week, and that's the Jets traveling to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. And this is a game where the Chiefs could win this game by any score they want. They're just going to run the ball all over the place against the Jets. Mahomes will have probably 3 or 4 touchdown passes. And defensively, the Jets aren't going to be able to run the ball. I don't think they're able to block Chris Jones. I think he's going to dominate this game. I think the Jets may score maybe 10 points because the Chiefs might put their backups in. This is probably the most lopsided game of the year. I got the Chiefs winning 41-10. And it still boggles my mind why Adam Gase still has a job.
I got the Chiefs 38-13. The Jets showed great 30 minutes last week.
Yeah.
And then they had 4 yards of offense.
4 total yards of offense. That cannot be more pathetic. 4 total yards of offense. And then the offensive genius still has a coaching job. That makes no sense at all.
I don't know. I'm lost for word yet that this guy still has a job. I still believe that he runs that organization right now. I still think, he's the one in that organization that he's untouchable. I really do right now.
We'll see if you're right after the bye week. Okay. We'll hold you to that statement till after. We'll see if you're right after the bye week. I'm holding you to that statement.
All right.
I'm holding you to that.
All right. I'm pretty confident that if everything I see, that he's the guy, he's untouchable in that organization right now. And yeah, I think the Chiefs starters will be out by halftime, and this will be one of the easier games for Patrick Mahomes and this offense. This would be again. The Jets defense has not been awful, but their offense doesn't really help them out. But this is gonna be an absolute but this is gonna be one of the worst games of the year.
It's Tua time in Miami as the Rams travel to Miami to face the Dolphins. And this is going to be a really interesting game. I think in this game, I think that the Rams can run the ball. It's a big difference from this year to last year's their ability to run the ball with Dontrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers. So I think they're going to be able to run the ball against the Dolphins. I think Jared Goff will have a pretty good game. But I think Tua is going to have a good game too. I really do think Tua is going to play well against this Rams defense. Rams is another trip to the East Coast, so they might be a little rusty this week going to Miami. So I think Tua has a pretty good game too. I think he gets the ball to Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki. I think Gaskin's got some yards on the ground. But I think the difference in this game is I think the Rams are going to make a play on defense. Either Aaron Donald picks off Tua or Aaron Donald gets a big sack on Tua, or Jalen Ramsey picks Tua off. So it's going to be one of those two guys making a play on defense. And in a close, competitive game, I got Sean McVay beating Brian Flores. You got the Rams beating the Dolphins 27-20.
Yeah, I got the Rams on the road 24-20. Rams have been playing well. I was impressed with the way they played against the Bears. That's that Bears defense is really good. Their defense played well. I know Nick Foles is not the greatest starting quarterback in the world, but I thought the defense was really, really good for them. I've been impressed the way Goff has been playing so far. That three-headed monster they have in the backfield where they can go to on any down has really benefited them in the offense. For Tua, I think he's going to be a great. I think he's going to be a really, really good quarterback in this league, just like we're seeing with Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow right now. But this isn't going to be the week that we're going to see that. I think he's going to struggle with this Rams defense. Coming off the bye could help. The extra week for preparation here, but I just don't. I see this being a really tough game to get anything going for the Dolphins, and I'm going to take the Rams, go on the road 24-20, and move to 6-2.
Got a very interesting AFC matchup in Cleveland as the Raiders travel to Cleveland to face the Browns. But before that, we got to talk about the big injury the Browns unfortunately suffered on Sunday after Baker Mayfield's interceptions. Odell Beckham tears his ACL. He's out for the season. Sad because it's the second major injury for Odell Beckham in the last 4 years. And people that sit here and say that, the Browns are better without OBJ, I'm not buying that yet. I mean, I know Baker played well his rookie year before OBJ got there, but there was one team he beat with a winning record, and that was the Ravens with Joe Flacco as a quarterback, so that really doesn't count. It's because Lamar Jackson didn't play. So he really has not beaten a team with a winning record without Odell Beckham. So he definitely needs Odell Beckham to be in the lineup for him to be successful. And for this game, I think this is a close competitive game, but I'm going to take the better quarterback in this game. I'm going to take Derek Carr over Baker Mayfield. I think Derek Carr makes some plays, gets the ball to Darren Waller and Henry Ruggs. I think Josh Jacobs has a good day on the ground. And I think that, I think that the Browns are a little banged up. Chubb won't play this game either. So Kareem Hunt will have a pretty good day on the ground. But I think Mayfield makes some mistakes. I think he has a couple turnovers in this game. The first game without Odell, I think Jarvis emotionally is a little upset with not having Odell there. We know how close Odell and Jarvis are. So I think this is a close competitive game, but I'm going to take the Raiders to beat the Browns 31-24.
I got the Browns getting the home win 31-27. I always, I never know what you're going to get out of the Raiders when they play an early kick, a 1 o'clock game.
Yeah, because remember the Patriot game, they got blown out.
They did. They beat the Panthers.
But they did beat the Panthers, and they did beat the Chiefs though. But that was they're in the Midwest though.
Yeah. And then then you go back to last year where they got actually pummeled against the Jets, and then then they beat Indy on the road though. I know, you never know what you're going to get from the Raiders in an early kickoff. But I like the way if Baker Mayfield comes out and plays like he did kind of after that 0-for-5 start and he finished 20 for 21. I think, the Browns come out and win this game. I think they put up enough points. Definitely unfortunate what happened with OBJ, but I think the Browns are going to be able to do enough. I think they have a big game on the ground. And in the Raiders last week, I know they lost by 25, but it really did not feel like a 25-point loss. A couple calls went against them. And it was a 4-point game in the fourth quarter too. It kind of just spiraled out of control. Yeah, there was questionable calls against the Raiders that really turned that game upside down, and and Tampa took advantage of it like they usually, like Brady usually does. But I got the Browns moving, to 6-2.
Wow, who would have thought the Cleveland Browns at 6-2 with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback?
I got them 8-8 this year going in.
I did too. I had them 8-8.
Yeah, they're right there.
Oh yeah,
for Browns fans.
Absolutely. It shows you how making a coaching change makes a difference, because Kevin Stefanski's a good coach.
Oh yeah. We've definitely seen it so far. Pretty much kind of mostly the same roster from last year with Freddie Kitchens, and how bad of a disaster that turned out to be.
Absolutely. So we got an interconference matchup in Detroit as the 4-2 Colts travel to Detroit to face the 3-3 Lions, who got very lucky last week against the Falcons. They should have lost that game. But I think for this game, yes, the Lions have the better quarterback. We all know that. Matthew Stafford is definitely right now clearly better than Phillip Rivers. But I think the Colts have the better overall team, and the Colts absolutely have the better coach. And in this game, I think the Colts have success on the ground, running the ball with Jonathan Taylor. I still think the Colts protect, even though the Lions got Everson Griffin, and everyone's making a little bit of a big deal about that. I still don't think that's that big of a pickup. I think they'll be able to protect Phillip Rivers. I think they'll be able to run the ball with Jonathan Taylor. And I think the Colts will be able to put up about 24 points in this game. And for the Lions, I do think that, they'll be able to move the ball a little bit on the Colts because Matthew Stafford's good. He'll get the ball to Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones. But I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. And I think it's going to be the difference in the game. The Colts will control the clock. And I think the Lions will make some plays with Stafford and Galladay. But I think this game comes down to a game where Matthew Stafford has the ball in his hands at the end. And this time, he doesn't get the job done because the Colts defense is good. And I got the Colts beating the Lions 24-20.
Yeah, I get pretty much the same score as you. I got 23-20 Indianapolis going on the road, getting the win, coming out the bye. I definitely with you there. I think the Colts I think this is another game where they're just they get out in front, they're able to use that running game, and they don't really have to rely on Phillip Rivers, because that's when their offense is at their best. When they need Phillip Rivers to make plays and have to come back with his arm, it will not happen for the most part this year, unless they're playing one of the worst secondaries in the league. For the Lions, they got absolutely lucky. Last week, again, I guess we have to give them some credit for winning 2 straight out of the bye here, but I think they're going to really struggle this week against the Colts. I think their offense struggle against the Colts. And their defense, if their defense can force Rivers into some turnovers and create a short field for the offense, they definitely can win this game. But I just don't see that happening. I think Rivers and the Colts are able to manage this game and keep the ball out of Stafford's hands and keep it even out of Phillip Rivers' hands for throwing it.
We got an AFC matchup in Cincinnati as the Titans travel to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. And for this game, I do think the game is going to be a little bit closer than people think. I mean, the Bengals got Carlos Dunlap out of their locker room today. They traded him to the Seahawks. He was a distraction on that team, got into it with the defensive coordinator after Baker Mayfield drove down the field to beat them last week, so they got him out of there. But I do think this is a competitive game, but definitely Derrick Henry's going to have his way on the ground. Ryan Tannehill's going to have a big day through the air, getting the ball to Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. I got the Titans putting up 30 in this game. But for the Bengals, I think Joe Burrow is a big game because the Titans have, as you saw last week, the Titans have a big issue getting off the field on 3rd down. Defensively, this team has been average to below average this season, especially getting to the quarterback. The Titans have had a lot of problems getting to the quarterback. So I think Joe Burrow is a big game this week. I think he keeps up with that Titan offense. But at the end of the day, I got the Titans who know how to win games, winning this game, and the Bengals who lose a lot of close games losing this game. I got the Titans beating the Bengals 30-24.
I got Tennessee 34-24, and I actually have the number because the Tennessee has been awful getting the field 3rd down. 61%. The opponents are converting against the Titans on 3rd down. 61%, which is
wow.
Which is
no wonder Clowney had to wait this long to get a job. He just has not been what the Titans have hoped for at all.
Yeah, he hasn't. Now, I think this is a week he'd definitely be going. This Bengals line is – I know the Titans have not got pass rush at all, but I feel like with how –
yeah, the Bengals probably the worst offensive line in football. But obviously, Joe Burrow's mobile and he can make plays, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, he can. He definitely can. I just feel like, this could be the breakout week for Clowney, maybe get them going, get some confidence back into them. And then I also just think that the Titans, there's no way that the Bengals are out there, Henry. I think they manage the clock, manage the game. I think Joe Burrow, they keep the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands and a chance to, win this game or have a game-winning drive. And I think that's why it's a 2-score game. I think Titans are able to just control the game, control the clock.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to do that as well. But we got to move on to the 4:00 games, and we got an NFC matchup of two playoff hopeful teams in Chicago as the Saints travel up to Chicago to face the Bears. And in this game, I think the Saints control this game because the one weakness of the Bears' defense is their run defense. You saw that Monday night. I think the Bears control this game on the ground with Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. Breeze, I don't care if Michael Thomas plays or not because I think Breeze is going to use Kamara in the pass game. And for the Bears, their offense is a complete mess right now. And you heard what Nick Foles told Brian Greasy in the Monday night broadcast, that there are plays he knows that the Bears that aren't going to work. The Bears can't protect. He knows there's plays that Matt Nagy calls that the Bears can't even protect. And that's not a good sign. I mean, that's just not a good sign at all. And Matt Nagy, and I like Matt Nagy. I still think he's done a decent job in Chicago, but he's got to call plays that suits his players' skill sets. He can't be, running. He's got to get a little more. He's got to add more crossing routes, check downs. He's got to add plays. Not these deep. You can't be throwing the ball deep with a bad offensive line and not great weapons. You got to call plays based on your personnel. And I think, and as Nick Foles said on the broadcast to Brian Greasy, that's what the Bears just are not doing right now. That's why their offense right now is a mess. They're 5-2, but a big reason they're 5-2 is two teams handed them games. The Falcons and the Lions handed them games. They're very, very lucky they're not 3-4 right now. So I think the Bears' offense is a mess. And with Allen Robinson this week in concussion protocol, and that was the reason why I thought this game might even be close because he could make a difference against the Saints secondary that's been struggling. I think with him in concussion protocol and him having a chance not to play, I think the Bears are going to have some trouble. I think the Saints get pressure on Nick Foles. We all know the Bears can't run the ball at all. Their running game is absolutely terrible. They can't do anything on the ground. I think the Bears are going to have a hard time on offense against this Saints defense. And I did say originally 24-17, but I'll change my prediction. I got the Saints beating the Bears 24-13 this week, Sunday afternoon in Chicago.
Yeah, I got the Saints going the road 21-16. Without Mike Thomas, they should still be able to get it done on the road. And the Saints, I know they're sitting there 4-2, but they have not looked good at all. And I know I picked them to win the Super Bowl, and I'm really starting to regret that choice right now.
I mean, listen. They're still a good football team.
They are.
I mean, Brees isn't the quarterback he once was, but he's still pretty good. Alvin Kamara is one of the top backs in the league. They have been playing without Michael Thomas, but they're still 4-2. Mm-hmm. The only issue is defensively, the back end has really struggled. Still got a really good front seven, though. They're still let's say yes, they're not as good as people thought because their roster's not as good as people thought, but they're still a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, you think so? I'm not. I don't know. I'm not. I need to see.
I know. I mean, they're still a contender. I mean, they still can make a run, I think.
I agree they can make a run. I just don't see it really happening at this point. I just need to see a full 60 minutes from this team. I have not been impressed with this team at all. Again, that Monday night game, they should have lost against the Chargers. They lost to the Raiders on the road after, they had a strong first quarter, and then kind of just fell apart after that. It's kind of disappointing too to see Michael Thomas be an issue in that locker room now too, because he was, he's always a quiet kind of guy.
Yeah, and I've heard rumors they might trade him. It might not be the injury there. He might just be such a pain in the neck in that locker room that the Saints just can't take it anymore.
Wow. Who would have thought that a year ago?
I know. He was considered before the season one of the best receivers in football.
Yeah, he was, and it's weird what's going on with him. He's never been like this till this year, so I just don't know what's happened. It's crazy to think about. And man, if they trade him, that will be some big news, and could change a team's future right there. Whoever possibly could land him if they trade him. But after the Bears, I think the defense definitely keeps them in it. Their offense just cannot make plays. Nick Foles is not a great starting quarterback at all right now. And if they can force Breeze in some turnovers and create a short field, definitely have a nice chance to win this game. Their defense can keep them in and pretty much every game. So I definitely see this team winning, like, this team could definitely win 9-10 games. But with this defense, that's really about it. Their offense is just pretty bad right now.
Oh, it's horrible. It's absolutely terrible. And Ryan Pace, if they don't make the playoffs, Ryan Pace should absolutely be fired. I mean, to pass on Watson and Trubisky is just Watson and Mahomes and draft Trubisky is completely inexcusable. I mean, and that's the biggest reason why the Bears offense is the way it is, just because of Ryan Pace. Not really Allen Robinson is the really only skill player they have right now. So Bears don't make the playoffs. Ryan Pace absolutely needs fired. But we got an NFC West matchup in Seattle. This should be a really exciting game. We got the 49ers who looked really good last week. Got the Seahawks who are coming off a loss. Big matchup in the division. If the Niners lose this, they can rule out the NFC West, in my opinion, because they'll be in last place at 4-4. Still have a good chance at a wild card, but they can rule out the NFC West. And for this game, I think this is a really fun game. I think that the Niners have we don't know if Jamal Adams is going to play or not, but I still think they have success running the ball. I think the Niners move the ball up and down the field against the Seahawks. And the Seahawks, I think even though the Niners defense, it's not what it was last year, but it's still pretty good. I think the Seahawks move the ball up and down the field. I think this is a close, competitive game, but I think Russell Wilson has the ball in his hands and he makes a play at the end to win the game. And I got the Seahawks beating the Niners 31-27.
Yeah, I get Seattle, bouncing back this week at home, 28-24. Again, another team that probably should have won last week. They kind of characteristic play, especially the goal line, the screen. I thought that was not the greatest play call in the world.
Great hustle by Metcalf, though.
Oh my God, yeah, that was insane. I can't believe. I assume you heard his buddy Buda Baker was mic'd up. I assume you heard what he said when DK Metcalf caught up to him. But yeah, that just shows how talented DK Metcalf is. But watching his Niner team last week, they're still not, Jimmy G's not great passing the ball, throwing the ball around. And that Seattle's kryptonite, that secondary, really, their run defense isn't bad.
Especially when Adams comes back. When Adams comes back, the run defense is good.
Yeah, oh yeah. I think they're like top 5 before he got hurt. Now I think they're 12th or 13th. But it's middle of the pack. It's not horrible. And then they just got Carl Dunlap too. I don't think he'll be playing this week, but could be a nice addition to that interior, or to that the defensive end. But I think Jimmy G's gonna have to make some plays with his arms. I don't know if he'll be able to do that. And I don't see Russell Wilson playing. I know he 4 touchdowns, 3 picks last week. I see him playing a lot better this week, and I don't see them losing. I don't think there'd be any fan in Seattle this week, but I don't see them losing this game at home.
We got an AFC West matchup in Denver as the Chargers. It's between two and 4 teams as the Chargers travel to Denver to face the Broncos. And yes, on paper, the Chargers should win this game. I mean, looking at their defense, looking at Herbert, who is definitely a better quarterback than Drew Lock. They'll probably they got better skill guys, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. So the Chargers on paper should win this game. But as we know for years, the Chargers lose games that they're supposed to win, and I think this is going to be one of them. I think in this game, you're going to see, them having trouble protecting Justin Herbert, even though I think Herbert makes some plays under pressure, but I think he also makes a mistake or two. I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. And also I think there's going to be that missed field goal and another, or maybe even a block punt, a couple bad plays on special teams. And I do think that the Broncos will make some plays on the Chargers defense. I think they'll be able to run the ball a bit better than the Chargers will. I think Drew Lock will make some plays on the Chargers defense. But I think in a squeaker, I got the Broncos pulling the upset 23-20 over the Chargers.
I'm going to take Chargers go on the road 28-20. I think, for me, I know Chargers got out to a great start last week against the Jaguars and pretty much let them they were pretty much in that game the whole time. Won by 10 eventually, but Jaguars always seemed like they were in that game and had a chance. So I could definitely see Denver knocking them out, but I just haven't liked the way Drew Lock's been playing. And I know the offense, they're banged up offensively, so I get that. And I've been pretty high on Drew Lock since they decided to get, I was kind of high on him coming out of college. I know struggled the senior year, but kind of ran a new offense. They're trying to get him to more of a pro style. But 1 touchdown this year to 4 interceptions. I think the Chargers will do enough. This should be, a fun quarterback matchup to watch for years to come. I think both these guys are going to be really good quarterbacks in this league. But I think the Chargers are going to force some turnovers. I am kind of nervous about it, but I think Chargers will do enough to get the win.
Got an NFC East matchup in Philadelphia as the Cowboys travel up to Philadelphia to face the Eagles, and the Cowboys have just been an absolute mess. And what shows you exactly what's happened, which is just the play that epitomizes their season, was the play, and everybody's been talking about it, was the play with Andy Dalton when John Bostic hit Andy Dalton in the helmet to helmet hit. Bostic got ejected from the game, but there was no Cowboy player that even got in Bostic's face after it, and that just shows you that the Cowboys are just a mess. They're just quitting. They're just quitting on this team. They don't. There's no team chemistry. They don't respect each other. It's just a total disaster. And I think it all starts up top, and it starts with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones needs to step down as GM. You saw him yesterday on the fan, telling a radio host to shut up and saying, "Oh, there is leadership in the locker room," and there clearly isn't. This team is a complete disaster, and their offensive line is terrible. The defense is clearly the worst in football. And for the game this week, I don't care who plays for the Eagles. I think this is a blowout. I think this is going to be the Eagles are going to win this game big. I mean, I think Carson Wentz has a big day. I don't care if Boston Scott or Miles Sanders plays. I think either of them have a big day on the ground. I think Wentz throws a couple touchdown passes, and the Eagles' defensive line is just going to be all over Ben DiNucci or Andy Dalton in this game. They're going to make life really difficult for both of them. And I think this game is a complete blowout. Just like last week, the Cowboys get blown out on the road to an NFC East opponent. I got the Eagles winning big. I got the Eagles winning 34-10 over the Cowboys.
Yeah, I got Philly 31-10. And yeah, that was that. Again, Bostic's hit. We're trying to get out of the game, but especially your starting quarterback, nobody's step up for him. It's just that it looks just all. It just shows that you have quit on your team, on the year. You're just kind of here to get paid and just, that's about it. And yeah, it's on Jerry, but obviously I agree Jerry Jones should step down as GM, but that will never happen. And then that will never, ever happen. You want the quick backstory here on Ben DiNucci?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So he's a 3-star quarterback. He was a 3-star quarterback. Originally went to Penn, decommitted to Penn, went to Pittsburgh, lost starting job to Kenny Pickett, went to James Madison. Didn't win a national title, did lose one. But I guess James Madison, they kind of ran what the Niners do, kind of run first offense, kind of just be a game manager. That's kind of – he's made some mistakes, but he's not a terrible quarterback. Again, I don't think he's going to come in. They got no shot, I don't think, anywhere, but I liked them, but the thing is, James Madison, they were run first. They always had 2-3 running backs he could go to. So I remember watching him, that James Madison, but he's a solid quarterback, James Madison, but it really won't matter. And I'll just say this quickly. It's right now, I don't think the Cowboys win another game. They may win one more. Is it out of the question? Now knowing Jerry, would you be shocked if they get like a top 5 pick and Justin Fields is available? Or I would not be shocked to see him draft Justin Fields so he doesn't have to pay Dak Prescott. I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they make that move. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. But if they are this bad, what they should do, and they're not going to do it, is get rid of McCarthy. You just have to fire McCarthy, and then hire a head coach, but give that head coach complete control of personnel. That's what they should do if they're this bad. And hey, if that person wants to not pay Dak Prescott, because here's the reality: if they do pay Dak Prescott, though, even if say Jerry stays as GM and they do decide to pay Dak, now you're paying Dak $40 million a year with the salary cap going down. How are you ever going to get better on defense or get better on the offensive line? Because Tyron Smith is done after this year. He's probably going to retire. So how are you going to get better on the offensive line or get better on defense if you end up paying Dak Prescott? I still think even if they pay Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott's clearly a top 10 quarterback, if they end up paying him, they're still going to be an 8-9 and 17.
But say you do draft Justin Fields, then you don't have to deal with that $40 million cap hit, and then you could build the team around Justin Fields. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion. Say if the Cowboys have, a top 3 pick and Justin Fields is there, what do you do if you're the Cowboys?
Yeah, I agree. Because it's not just one part. They need a lot of help, pretty much, off in the line, the defense. Yeah, they need a lot of pieces. And Jerry just throws out contracts anyway.
He's paid 2 of those guys on the defense and hasn't paid Dak Prescott yet. And then if he would have paid Dak Prescott earlier, maybe he'd be able to spread the money around, and they would have been able to pay Byron Jones. And that was a huge loss. Byron Jones was a huge loss because the Cowboys' corners are absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, it would have been smart, but again, Jerry does things his own way. Jerry, but it doesn't shock me that Jerry's waiting. It's has big time costs. It has come back to haunt Jerry Jones right now because his team is absolutely pitiful and they're an absolute joke right now. And this is the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, this is supposed to be America's team. It's supposed to be,
Yeah, but let's be real. In your lifetime, have the Cowboys really been Super Bowl contenders?
No,
they've never been. The last time the Cowboys had probably truly been Super Bowl contenders was in 1995 when Jerry Jones had Jimmy Johnson's players. Since, and yes, they've had their 13-3s these in like 07 and 2016 and 12-4 in 2014, but you never consider them Super Bowl contenders because you always have that thing ingrained in your head. As long as Jerry Jones is the general manager, this team, they might win a division. They might win a division. They might win a playoff game, but this team will never get to an NFC championship game or will never win a Super Bowl or get to an NFC title game with Jerry Jones as the general manager.
No, that is completely right. Yeah, I've thought about that. That's it's the first few years I kind of saw Romo and kind of just the way I've learned. I've heard from Jerry Jones and all that. And just what the Cowboys have all been about. Yeah, I definitely agree. They will never be a Super Bowl contender until he decides that he's not GM anymore, and I don't think that will ever happen until he passes on. I will never see that. I will never see that happen.
It probably won't. It probably won't. But we got to move on to college football, and we got a humongous story in college football that just came up today. The Wisconsin-Nebraska game has not just been postponed; it's been canceled, and that's crazy. That's crazy now. And the Big Ten, they left themselves no wiggle room. They had an 8 game. They were going to play 8 games in 8 weeks. To try to salvage a season, which they originally canceled, then they brought back. When you leave yourself no wiggle room, you get into the situation now. And here's a good example for the Big Ten, and especially in Wisconsin's league. I'm just gonna throw a random team out there. I'm gonna throw like Purdue. Say Purdue because they got Rondell Moore. Say somehow their one loss that they win they win all their Big Ten games. I don't know what their schedule is, but say they win all their Big Ten games, and the one loss is to Wisconsin, but they're ahead of Wisconsin by like a half a game. Their Big Ten record is 7-1, and Wisconsin's a 6-1. Who goes to the Big Ten championship game? That's what's weird about the situation, and that's why it was very risky not leaving any wiggle room in the schedule because now you got a problem like this. The thing with the SEC, the Big 12, and the ACC is they have wiggle room. The Big Ten has none, and now they face their biggest challenge with this game getting postponed.
Yeah, and now I'm going to bring up this point too. Wisconsin now, you cancel that game, and the way I saw them play Friday night, this is a team that can win the Big Ten and could possibly be in the running for college football playoffs. They already canceled the game. We don't know what the committee is going to think about teams that only play 7 games. We don't really know what they're going to think of the Big Ten and Pac-12. It really hurts this league. You're exactly right that they have no way to reschedule games. It's gonna hurt, and especially the first domino that falls is Wisconsin. Because I thought with Graham Mensa, I saw a quarterback that Wisconsin's been struggling to find the last few years. I thought this team was legit. Again, they still may definitely run table and do all that, but I don't know what the committee thinks that. You lose a team at Nebraska that they're not great, but you still go on the road and beat Nebraska. That you do get some points for that, and it's definitely a tough blow that they definitely kind of definitely thought about for the Big Ten, but they should have, I know they wanted to give their teams enough time to practice, but you probably should have started a week or two earlier so you could avoid that. Like the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC can make room and add that extra week.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's going to be a challenge all year for the Big Ten because this is going to be the first problem. This won't be the first problem. And it's not going to be the last problem. So they're going to have problems all year dealing with COVID, and the one risky thing is just not having that extra week, and that's really going to hurt them. But we're going to get to the game slate this week, and we're going to stay in the Big Ten as Michigan State, who lost a terrible game to Rutgers, Mel Tucker's first game they lose to Rutgers, heads to Ann Arbor to face Michigan, and I think this game is going to be a blowout. I think Joe Milton's going to have a huge game. I got Michigan winning this one big. I got them winning it by 4 or 5 scores, like something like 38-3 over Michigan State.
Yeah, I got Michigan 35-13. I was impressed the way Joe Milton played. He played good. I'm not going to say he's the next big Michigan quarterback yet. I'm not going to take it that far yet, but I did like what I saw. And for Michigan State, I just want to kind of say this. This was a tough spot for Mel Tucker to come in this job. Mark D'Antonio doesn't resign till the day before signing day, which was February 2nd or 3rd or 4th, one of those 3 days. He doesn't get the job till February 13th. So he has exactly a month to really get to know his players, get his system in before the shutdown, and then not really meeting these guys in person until July, So he really hasn't gotten to deal with his culture, any of that yet. And I think that's really going to hurt Michigan State this year. I think their defense can keep them in some games because I like their defense. The offense has 7 turnovers. They did get blown off the ball by Rutgers, which is very, very concerning. But I think Michigan should win this game big, 35-13.
Got an SEC matchup in Lexington as Georgia battles Kentucky, and I think this is a game where Georgia wins pretty easily. They're going to be able to run the ball well. I think their defense shuts down Kentucky. I got Georgia winning this one by 2 scores.
Yeah, I got Georgia winning this one pretty sound, 24-7. Georgia shut these guys out last year. Kentucky has no passing game whatsoever. They're going to need to be able to throw the ball to have any chance against Georgia. I think they were like 3 for 12 last week, throwing the ball with only 36 yards. And then get this. So Kentucky played Missouri last week. Larry Roundtree, the third, Missouri's running back, ran the ball 37 times. Kentucky's offense only ran 36 plays. So their defense was on the field for 42 minutes last week. I could see something like that again. As long as Stetson Bennett manage the game, they run the football, they could wear out this Kentucky defense. Kentucky's D is pretty good. They can make some turnovers and keep them in the game, but I feel like Georgia's not really going to throw the ball too much against these guys, and that's going to hurt the Wildcats in this one.
We got an AAC matchup in Cincinnati as Memphis faces Cincinnati, and I think this is a close, competitive game. But I'm going to go with the Bearcats close over Memphis.
Yeah, I got Cincy win this one 35-24. I'm telling you, I think Cincinnati is definitely a team that they run the table here. They could sneak in as that 4 seed. I really believe it. I think they're good enough. I love Luke Fickell as a head coach. I think that guy can get any Power 5 job he wants this offseason if he wants a Power 5 job. And they absolutely demolished SMU last week. And SMU is a good team. That's a good football team. That's a top 25 team. They ran for 300 yards against them. Desmond Ritter has to make some plays this week. They're not going to be able to run the ball 300 times because that's Memphis is kind of one strength on defense. They cannot stop the passing game. But this should be interesting. Cincinnati defense really good. Brady White, 17 touchdowns so far in 4 games. He's going to be fun to watch against this defense. But I think Cincinnati's defense is a difference maker in this game.
Big 12 matchup in Stillwater as Sam Ehlinger and the Longhorns face Chua Hubbard and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And I think this is another close, competitive game. But I'm going with the better coach. I'm going with Mike Gundy's team and Chua Hubbard over the Longhorns.
Yeah, I got the Cowboys winning this one 31-24 at home. I think for Texas, Sam Ehlinger again last week, just inconsistent. They played a good Baylor defense, but on the other hand, their defense played well, but Baylor's offense is it's not very good. It's a mediocre. Again, maybe it's kind of a confidence boost maybe for Texas defense, but Oklahoma State has won 7 of the last 10 meetings against the Longhorns. I think that moves to 8 of the last 11. And Oklahoma State's defense is legit. They're only giving up 12 points a game so far in Big 12 play. I think Tylan Wallace and Chuba Hubbard are going to make some big plays against Texas. Their defense is not good. I'm going to go with the Cowboys, 31-24 at home.
We got the big game on Saturday night. Would have been a bigger game if Penn State closed that game out against Indiana, which they had no business losing that game. It was a terrible loss to Indiana. You know, Indiana's a good team. There's no way Penn State should have lost that game to Indiana last week. I mean, you're up 21-20 late in the game. Devin Ford, just take a knee before you get to the goal line. Don't score that touchdown and give Indiana another chance. And then they tie the game and they win on that crazy play. Just a terrible loss for Penn State. A typical James Franklin loss for Penn State last week. And in this game, I do think that I do think they're competitive early with Ohio State. I do think their defense contains Fields early in the game. You saw last week Ohio State struggled to run the ball and stop the run in the first half. I do think Penn State has a little bit of success running the ball. I think Sean Clifford has some success. He runs the ball successfully. I think there's some with Devin Ford and Noah Cain that they can run. As Obi just commented, it happens. It sure does. That was a brutal loss as a Penn State fan. A brutal loss last week. I'm a Giants fan and a Penn State fan, so I had two brutal losses last week. But just and I think in this game, obviously I think Penn State will run the ball a little bit, will run the ball well early. I think Sean Clifford makes some plays early. I mean, there's no way Sean Clifford could throw those 2 interceptions that he did last week and compete with this Ohio State team. There's no way that could happen. Clifford's got to play mistake-free to win this game. I do think he makes a mistake, though, in this game. And I think Clifford has a tough time keeping up with Justin Fields. I think the game's close at the beginning, but I think Ohio State pulls away in the second half. And I got Ohio State beating my Penn State Nittany Lions 34-20.
Yeah, I got Ohio State going the road. And it stinks, too. This would have been the whiteout game. This would have been, absolute great atmosphere, 2 for Saturday night, which definitely would have helped Penn State a little bit too with the home field advantage. And I actually heard this morning. Noah Cain's actually out for the season with a knee injury or a leg injury. So Penn State's running, backfield gets even shorter now. So now you're going to need Ford now to be that number one guy in the backfield. I assume he's going to be the one. But yeah, State,
Ford was mostly Ford last week. Cain, Ford mostly played last week.
Yeah. So he'll definitely be the guy this week. But yeah, you guys had no business losing that game. You guys gave up only 211 yards, and then the 3 turnovers, the 3 missed field goals. It just, that was a James Franklin kind of coach game there. They just kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Ovi just commented too. Third quarter, Ohio State will be running away with that, which I could very easily see that happening.
I could, and John Clifford, because Ohio, Luke McCaffrey, I think, ran for 87 yards, and the Nebraska quarterback, and then Adrian Martinez ran for 90 yards, I believe. So Sean Clifford could, I think he'll be able to run the ball, and that's the concern I have with Ohio State is they don't have that great running back this year. They don't even, the whole line I didn't even think was that great either last week. So I could maybe see Penn State because their defense, their defense played pretty well. Their offense kind of hurt them, and it was a tough play in overtime. That probably should have been overturned. But
here's the thing about that play: you can't have that game come down to that play. And they called it on the field touchdown. I'm a Penn State fan. They called it on the field touchdown. You can't have the game come down to that play. Don't turn the ball over 3 times. Don't miss 3 field goals. 2 makeable field goals. That just can't happen. That can't happen. You can't be a good team that way. They deserve to lose that game. And they lost that game. So, it was a tough call at the end, but you can't let that game come down to that call. That just can't happen.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You guys should have won that game in regulation by, you make those 3 field goals, don't turn the ball over. Yeah, it's a much different story this week. It's going to be interesting how Penn State comes out, too, in this game after last week because they lose this game. They're over. It's over. They lose this one. There's no way, and I think they're going to lose this one. They just James Franklin, really outside of that one win against Ohio State, he's never really had a signature win since he's been at Penn State. No, he hasn't. Now this wouldn't be an absolute huge one for him, but I don't see that. I just see this Ohio State team a little bit too much for him. It would really help to have a Journey Brown this week and Micah Parsons, but I don't know if that would still even
Yeah, the game would be closer, but I don't think it would matter because I think the quarterback on Ohio State has the much better quarterback.
Yeah, they do. And I was really impressed with Justin Fields because that one incomplete pass he had, Chris Oliva probably should have caught too. He could have been perfect that game, 21 for 21. So, yeah, I think, could be definitely close game at halftime, and then Ohio State runs away with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. But that's going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We'll be back next week talking about the NFL trade deadline, week 8 of the NFL season, and week 9 of the college football season. You have a great weekend, everybody.